I've been thinking about my grandfather's hands lately. Strange thing to fixate on when the world's ending, but memory works in peculiar ways. He had these thick, calloused fingers, hands that fixed boat engines and pulled catfish from the bayou. Hands that never shook, not even when he told me about the summer of 1943. I'm Caleb Smith, 34 years old, born and raised in Belrose, Louisiana. Population 847 when I graduated high school, probably half that now. Most folks who could leave did so decades ago. Those of us who stayed learned to live with the questions we weren't supposed to ask. My grandfather died when I was 17. Cancer took him slow, gave him time to talk. Near the end, morphine loosened his tongue about things he'd kept buried for 50 years. He told me about Chimera Labs. They arrived in July 1943, 3 months after I was born. No, wait, that's wrong. 3 months after he was born. I mix up the timeline sometimes. Federal trucks rolled down Highway 22 at dawn, carrying men in suits and enough construction equipment to build a small city. They chose the old Tross Clare property, 200 acres of worthless swampland nobody wanted. Paid cash, asked no questions, built their facility in 6 weeks. The official story was simple: wartime industrial plant, classified manufacturing, essential to the effort overseas. Don't ask what they're making. Don't go near the fence. My grandfather worked security there for 8 months. He never told me what he saw inside, but whatever it was changed him. Made him take a job at the lumber mill instead, 40 miles away, just to avoid driving past that place. Made him teach me how to shoot when I turned 12, how to recognize when something's wrong with a person before they get close. Made him keep a go bag packed in his closet until the day he died. Some doors shouldn't be open, Caleb, he said the week before the cancer won. His hands were shaking then, finally. Some things you can't put back once they're loose. I didn't understand. Not really. Not until last Tuesday when the sirens started. Now I'm sitting in my attic with my grandfather's hunting rifle, watching smoke rise from the Chimera Labs compound 3 miles south. The emergency broadcast has been looping for 6 hours. My phone's battery died sometime around dawn. The screaming from the street stopped about an hour ago. And I finally understand what my grandfather meant about doors. The first time I visited Chimera Labs, I was 9 years old. My mother worked in the administrative building, filing, typing, answering phones, standard clerical work that paid better than anything else in Belrose. She'd started there in 1998, long after the original wartime operation had supposedly shut down. The facility reinvented itself every decade or so. Defense contractor, pharmaceutical research, biosecurity consulting. The fence stayed up, the armed guards remained. That particular afternoon, she'd forgotten her lunch. My father was offshore working the rigs, so I rode my bike the 3 miles down Highway 22, brown paper bag hanging from my handlebars. Summer heat made the asphalt shimmer. Cicadas droned in the oak trees. The guard at the gate knew me. Thibaut Arsenault, an older man who'd served in Vietnam and never talked about it. He had a son my age who'd drowned in the bayou 2 summers prior. "The mama's in Building C," he said, waving me through without checking the visitor log. "Don't wander." I pedaled past the main complex, gray concrete structures with narrow windows and no indication of what happened inside. The architecture felt wrong somehow, like someone had designed buildings to be forgotten. No company logos, no directory signs, just numbers on doors and cameras pointed at every angle. Building C sat apart from the others, connected by an enclosed walkway that looked newer than the rest. I parked my bike and went inside. The air conditioning hit me first, so cold after the Louisiana heat that goosebumps rose on my arms. The lobby was empty except for a receptionist behind bulletproof glass. She buzzed me through without looking up from her computer. I found my mother's office on the 2nd floor. She wasn't there. Her coffee sat on the desk, still warm, her cardigan draped over the chair back. The computer screen showed a paused video, some kind of security footage, grainy and dark. I probably should have left the lunch and gone home. Instead, I hit the spacebar. The video resumed. It showed a hallway, white walls and fluorescent lighting. The timestamp read 03/17/23, dated 3 weeks earlier. For 30 seconds, nothing happened. Then a door at the end of the hallway opened. A woman emerged. At first, I thought she was sick. The way she moved reminded me of my grandfather near the end, that shuffling gait of someone whose body wasn't cooperating anymore. She wore a lab coat, no shoes. Her hair hung in front of her face. She stood in the hallway for a long moment, swaying slightly. Then she turned toward the camera. I've tried to forget what her face looked like. The way her jaw hung loose, the vacancy in her eyes, the dark stains on her coat. But what stays with me most is the sound. A low clicking noise coming from her throat, rhythmic and wrong, like her vocal cords had forgotten their purpose. She took 3 steps toward the camera. Then the video cut to black. "Caleb?" I jumped, knocking the mouse off the desk. My mother stood in the doorway, her expression unreadable. "You shouldn't be here," she said quietly. Not angry, afraid. I pointed at the screen. What was that? Nothing. Old training footage. She crossed the room and closed the video window. Her hands were steady, but I noticed she'd bitten her nails down to the quick. "Let's get you home." She called in sick the next day, and the day after that. When she finally returned to work, she made me promise to never visit the facility again. I kept that promise for 23 years. Until last Tuesday. Last Tuesday started like any other morning in Belrose. I teach history at the parish high school, or taught. Past tense feels more appropriate now. 26 students in my junior class, most of them planning to leave Louisiana the second they got their diplomas. Can't blame them. There's nothing here anymore except old families, older secrets, and the chemical plant that's been temporarily closed for maintenance since 2019. Chimera Labs was the exception. They kept hiring, good wages, excellent benefits, and a non-disclosure agreement that could bankrupt you and 3 generations of your family if you violated it. My mother worked there for 31 years before retiring last spring. She moved to Baton Rouge 2 months later, wouldn't tell me why. That morning I was teaching about World War II. Ironic looking back. I just explained how scientific advances during wartime often had unforeseen consequences when the fire alarm went off. Not the regular alarm, the one they test every first Monday. This was different. A staccato burst pattern I'd never heard before, followed by Principal Landry's voice over the intercom. "This is not a drill. Teachers, initiate lockdown procedures immediately." My students looked at me, confused. We'd practiced lockdowns for school shooters, for hurricanes, for chemical spills from the plant. But this was a Wednesday morning in November, clear skies, no threats. I locked the door, pulled the blinds, moved my students away from the windows, standard procedure. Then I checked my phone. 73 missed calls, all from my mother. The most recent voicemail was 30 seconds long. I'll remember her exact words until the day I die, which might be sooner than I'd like. "Caleb, if you're hearing this, get out of Belrose. Don't go home. Don't stop for anything. There was an accident at the facility. Containment breach in Sector 7. They're saying it's contained, but it's not. They lost track of a test subject 6 hours ago, and I just saw the internal memos. Baby, please. Just drive. Get on I-10 and don't look back." Her voice broke on the last sentence. My mother doesn't cry. Didn't cry when my father died. Didn't cry at her own mother's funeral. I tried calling her back, straight to voicemail. Through the classroom window blinds, I saw movement in the parking lot. A man stumbling between cars. At first I thought he was drunk. Belrose has that problem. But something about his gait made my stomach tighten. That same shuffling walk from the video on my mother's computer. That same broken rhythm. He stopped next to a teacher's sedan and stood there, swaying, his head tilted forward at an angle that didn't look right. Then he turned, and even from the second floor I could see the dark wetness covering the front of the shirt. One of my students, Margot Hebert, pressed her face against the glass. "Mr. Smith, isn't that Coach Delahousse?" It was. Beau Delahousse, football coach, married father of 3, lived 2 streets over from me. I'd had drinks with him last Friday at Trosclair's bar. We talked about hunting season, about his youngest daughter's college applications. The thing in the parking lot wearing Beau's face lifted its head. That clicking sound, the one from the video, drifted up through the closed windows. Other shapes appeared between the cars. More teachers, a custodian I recognized. They all moved the same way, heads lolling, arms hanging loose. The emergency broadcast started then. Not on our phones, those came later. This was the old civil defense siren on top of the courthouse. The one they'd installed during the Cold War and never removed. Its wail cut through the morning air. A woman's voice followed, playing on a loop. "Emergency alert. This is not a test. Biological hazard detected in Iberville Parish. All residents must shelter in place. Lock all doors and windows. Avoid contact with anyone displaying aggressive behavior or physical trauma. Do not attempt to leave the area. Repeat, this is not a test." Margot stepped back from the window. "Mr. Smith? What's happening?" I didn't have an answer then. I do now. We stayed in that classroom for 3 hours. Principal Landry's voice came over the intercom twice more. First to confirm that buses were canceled, parents should not attempt pickup. Second to say that emergency services were coordinating a response, and we should remain calm and follow instructions. The third time his voice sounded different, strained, like he was reading from a script with someone holding a gun to his head. "Teachers, you are advised to maintain your positions. Help is coming. Do not, under any circumstances, open your doors to anyone you cannot positively identify as uninfected." Uninfected. He said the word like a taste of the vash. Margot raised her hand, a gesture so automatic it would have been funny if we weren't listening to people scream in the hallway. How are we supposed to tell? I didn't have an answer. Through the narrow window in my classroom door, I'd watched 3 teachers try to reach the main office. They'd made it about halfway before something pulled them out of my line of sight. The sounds that followed sent 2 of my students to the corner, vomiting into the trash can. My phone buzzed. A text from my mother. "Still in Belrose?" "At the school. Can't leave." "You have to. It spreads through fluid contact. Saliva, blood. Anyone bitten will turn within 90 minutes. Once it reaches the brainstem, there's no coming back." I stared at that message. 90 minutes. I'd watched Coach Delahousse get taken down in the parking lot almost 2 hours ago. If my mother was right, if this thing spread that fast. "How do you know this?" I typed back. 3 dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. I've known for 31 years. They told us it was destroyed in 1947. They lied. Another text followed immediately. Chimera Labs has been running containment drills since 1952. Every employee signs a document acknowledging the existence of Project Lazarus. We called it the Restoration Protocol. Bioweapon development never stopped after the war ended. They just got better at hiding it. My hands felt numb reading her words. My mother, who'd packed my lunches and taught me to ride a bike and grounded me for sneaking out, she'd known about this for my entire life. The test subject they lost, her next message read. His name was Aaron Tate. Former Marine. Volunteered for what he thought was a PTSD treatment study. The infection rewrites neurological pathways, strips higher brain function, leaves only base aggression and hunger. He attacked a lab tech, broke containment at 0200 this morning. By the time they locked down the facility, 17 people were exposed. 17. 6 hours ago. If each of them infected 2 or 3 others. The math made my throat close up. A thud against my classroom door made everyone jump. Through the narrow window, I saw a face pressed against the glass. Jennifer Callahan, sophomore English teacher. We'd had lunch together yesterday, complained about budget cuts and standardized testing. Her right cheek was torn open, exposing teeth and bone. One eye had ruptured, leaking down her face in the translucent stream. But the other eye was fixed on me, with a focus that made my skin crawl. She didn't blink, just stood there, forehead against the glass, that clicking sound rattling in her ruined throat. "Don't let her in," someone whispered behind me. Unnecessary advice. Whatever was wearing Jennifer's body wasn't my colleague anymore. My phone buzzed again. The National Guard is establishing a perimeter around Belrose. 20-mile radius. They're not letting anyone out until they determine infection spread. You need to move now, before the lockdown is complete. There are kids with me. 26 students. Then get them out. Authorities won't shoot children, but they will quarantine you indefinitely. Caleb, this isn't like the flu. There's no cure, no vaccine. If this gets outside Iberville Parish, it could reach New Orleans in 3 days, the entire Gulf Coast in a week. I looked at my students. Margot was crying quietly, trying not to make noise. Beau Hebert, no relation to Margot, common surname around here, had his rosary out, lips moving in prayer. The Garcia twins huddled together near the windows, all of them staring at me like I had answers. My grandfather's voice echoed in my head. Some things you can't put back once they're loose. How long before it burns out? I texted my mother. It doesn't. Test subjects survived in isolation for 6 months. The infection doesn't need food or water, just hosts. They can go dormant in bodies for weeks, then reactive when new prey is near. Jesus Christ. The lights went out. Emergency power kicked in after a few seconds, bathing everything in red. The backup generator was in the basement, which meant someone had cut the main lines, intentionally or otherwise. In the crimson glow, I could see more shapes gathering in the hallway. 12 at least, all pressing against doors, testing locks. The clicking sounds overlapped, creating a chorus that vibrated through the walls. Mr. Smith? Margot's voice was small. My dad works at Chimera Labs, Security Division. He texted me an hour ago saying they were evacuating key personnel to a safe location. He told me if things got bad, there's an emergency shelter beneath the old Catholic church on Rue St. Martin. He said they built it during the original outbreak. Original outbreak. The words landed like stones in water. What original outbreak? I asked. 1943, she said. According to his message, this isn't the first time. There was an incident during the war. That's why they really built Chimera Labs. Not to create the weapon, but to contain it after I got loose from a German research facility they'd captured. My grandfather's 8 months working security there. His warnings. The go bag he'd kept until he died. He'd known. They'd all known. And they'd stayed quiet for 80 years while Chimera Labs refined whatever had gotten loose, studied it, weaponized it. The door handle rattled. Jennifer was testing the lock now, her movements gaining coordination, learning. "Everyone grab your bags," I said, keeping my voice steady. "We're leaving through the windows. Fire escape on the east side. Stay together. Stay quiet. If anyone gets separated, head for the church on Rue St. Martin." "What about the others?" Bo asked. "The other classrooms?" I wanted to save them all. Wanted to be the hero who evacuated the entire school, but through the windows I could see the parking lot swarming with infected. Could see smoke rising from downtown. Could hear gunshots echoing from somewhere near the courthouse. "We save who we can," I said, "starting with us." It was the first of many terrible decisions I'd have to make that day. Not the worst, though. That came later. The fire escape was older than most of my students. Rust flaked off the metal as I forced open the window, the frame groaning loud enough to make everyone freeze. In the hallway, the clicking intensified. They'd heard. "One at a time," I whispered. "Test each step before putting your full weight on it." Margot went first. She was small, athletic, moved down the ladder without hesitation. The Garcia twins followed, then Bo, then the others. I counted heads as they descended. 26 became 25 when I realized Jasper Robichaud wasn't with us anymore. "Where's Jasper?" I hissed. No one answered. We'd lost him somewhere in the chaos, maybe when the lights went out. I tried not to think about what that meant. The last student was halfway down when the classroom door splintered. Jennifer came through first, followed by 2 others I didn't recognize. Their movements had evolved in the past hour, less stumbling, more purposeful. They crossed the room in seconds, drawn by our scent or heat or whatever guided them now. I dropped through the window, grabbed the ladder, slid down fast enough to burn my palms, hit the ground just as Jennifer's face appeared above, her remaining eye tracking me with predatory focus. She didn't follow, just watched us flee across the courtyard toward the tree line. "Why isn't she coming after us?" Margot asked, breathing hard. "Because she's smart enough to let us lead her to more prey," I said, then wished I hadn't, because several students went pale. The courtyard opened onto a maintenance road that wound through the woods behind the school. We'd used it for cross-country practice. Now it was our only path away from the building, where more infected were pouring out of every exit. We moved in a tight group, staying off the main road. Through the trees I could see Highway 22. Traffic was gridlocked, cars abandoned at odd angles. Some still had their engines running, doors hanging open. The emergency broadcast continued from radios, that same recorded message about sheltering in place. "My house is close," Bo said, pointing east. "We could grab supplies." "No detours. We head straight for the church. My parents might be there." I wanted to tell him his parents were fine, wanted to offer comfort. But I had seen the infection spread through the parking lot, watched it claim teachers and staff in minutes. The odds of anyone's parents surviving the first wave were minimal. "The church," I repeated. "It's our only chance." We followed Bayou Road, staying in the drainage ditches when vehicles passed. Twice we heard gunfire, sharp cracks that echoed across the water. Once a military helicopter flew overhead, so low I could see the door gunner scanning the ground. The Garcia twins, Sophia and Isabella, were arguing in rapid Spanish behind me, something about their grandmother who lived near the church. Before I could ask, Sophia stopped walking. "There's someone on the road," We all froze. A man stood about 50 yards ahead, silhouetted against the afternoon sun. He wore hunting gear, orange vest, camouflage pants. One arm hung at a wrong angle, clearly broken. But he was standing upright, not shuffling. "Hello?" I called out. "Are you hurt?" The man turned his head. The movement was smooth, human. Relief washed through me. "We need help," I continued, stepping out of the ditch. "We're trying to reach..." The man's face came into focus. Octave Boudreau owned the hardware store on Main Street. I'd bought paint from him last month. His left cheek was missing, torn away to expose molars and jawbone. But his eyes were clear, focused, and he was smiling. "Run," I said quietly, then louder. "Run!" Octave moved faster than anything human should, closing the distance between us in seconds. I shoved Margot behind me, raised my arms instinctively. He hit me like a linebacker, knocked me flat. His weight crushed the air from my lungs. That clicking sound rattled inches from my face, his breath hot and wrong. I got my forearm under his chin, pushed back. His teeth snapped, missing my wrist by millimeters. Someone was screaming. Blood dripped onto my shirt. His or mine, I couldn't tell. Then Beau was there with a fallen branch, swinging it like a baseball bat. The impact sent Octave sprawling sideways. I rolled away, gasping. "Go!" Beau shouted, already pulling me to my feet. We ran. Behind us, Octave made sounds that weren't quite human anymore, frustrated growls mixed with that eternal clicking. But he was learning to coordinate, learning the hunt. They were all learning. The church appeared through the trees, its white steeple rising above the oaks. St. Catherine's Catholic Church, built in 1889, renovated twice, nearly condemned 3 times. It looked empty, too quiet. "This is wrong," Isabella said. "If there's a shelter, why isn't anyone here?" Good question. The parking lot held only 2 vehicles, a maintenance truck and a sedan with government plates. No crowds of refugees, no National Guard presence. The front doors were locked. I tried the handles, then circled to the side entrance. Also locked. The windows were too high to reach without a ladder. "There has to be another way in," Margot said. "My dad wouldn't send me somewhere we couldn't access." I checked my phone. No signal anymore. Whatever cell towers served Belrose had either lost power or been deliberately shut down. A sound made us all turn. Movement in the woods we'd just left. Octave had followed us, and he brought friends. 5 more infected emerged from the trees, spreading out in a coordinated pattern that sent ice through my veins. "The parish hall," Sophia said suddenly. "Around back. There's a door that never locks right. Father Broussard was always complaining about it." We sprinted around the building. The door she mentioned was there, slightly ajar. I pulled it open and ushered everyone inside, then slammed it shut. There was no lock, just a handle. I grabbed a folding chair from the hall and wedged it under the knob. "Downstairs," I said. "The shelter has to be in the basement." The basement stairs descended in the darkness. Someone found a light switch. Fluorescent tubes flickered to life, revealing the typical church basement. Long tables, folding chairs, posters about youth group activities. No signs of any emergency shelter. "Maybe your dad was wrong," I told Margot gently. "No." She crossed to the far wall, running her hands along the paneling. "It was very specific. He said, beneath St. Catherine's, built in 1943, access through the basement. There has to be." Her fingers caught on something. A section of paneling shifted slightly. We pulled it away to reveal a steel door set into the concrete wall. It looked ancient, painted over multiple times. At its center was a keypad, modern, digital, completely out of place with the rest. "Well," Bo said, "that's encouraging and terrifying." The keypad required a 6-digit code. I had no idea what it might be. Behind us, something hit the door at the top of the stairs. Then again, harder. The folding chairs scraped against the floor but held. "Anyone have any ideas?" I asked. Margaret pulled out her phone, scrolled through her messages from her father. "He sent me numbers. I thought it was our address, but it's 1 digit off. 194,343. "Try it," I said. She punched in the code. For a long moment, nothing happened. Then the keypad beeped green, and something heavy clumped inside the wall. The steel door swung inward on hydraulic hinges, revealing a concrete tunnel sloping down into darkness. The door at the top of the stairs splintered. The chair gave way with a metallic screech. "Inside," I ordered. "Now." We piled through the entrance. I was last, pulling the steel door shut just as infected footsteps thundered down the basement stairs. The door sealed with a pressurized hiss. Through a small reinforced window, I watched Octave's face appear, pressing against the glass. He couldn't get in. The door was designed to withstand exactly this scenario, which meant someone had been planning for this day since 1943. The tunnel stretched ahead, lit by emergency lighting strips along the walls. At the far end, maybe 50 yards away, I could see another door. Stenciled on it in faded yellow paint were 3 words: Chimera Labs Sector 9. Authorized personnel only. Margot saw it too. Her face went pale. "My dad sent us to Chimera Labs?" "No," I said, my voice hollow. "He sent us to where it all began." The tunnel smelled like a grave. Not decay exactly, more like earth that had been sealed away from air and light for decades. Our footsteps echoed off concrete walls as we moved toward Sector 9. Emergency lights cast everything in sickly yellow. "Why would my dad send us here?" Margot asked again. Her voice kept cracking. I had theories, none of them good. The door at the tunnel's end had no keypad, just a simple handle. I tried it, expecting resistance. It opened smoothly, well-oiled hinges silent. Beyond lay a corridor identical to the one I'd seen on my mother's computer screen 23 years ago. White walls, gray floor, numbered doors on either side. No bodies, no blood, no sign that anything had gone wrong here. That scared me more than if we'd found carnage. "Stay close," I told my students. "Don't touch anything." The first door we passed was labeled storage, Level 3 clearance required. Through its window I could see shelves stacked with sealed containers, each marked with biohazard symbols. The second door was an office, abandoned mid-shift, coffee cup still sitting on the desk, computer screen dark. Bo tried a door marked records, locked. The next 3 were the same, secured from the inside or requiring access cards we didn't have. "There," Sophia pointed. At the corridor's end stood double doors marked Observation Deck. They were propped open. We approached carefully. The observation deck was exactly what it sounded like, a raised platform overlooking a massive space below. The room beyond was easily 3 stories tall, filled with equipment I didn't recognize. Containment chambers, medical devices, and in the center, a cylindrical tank large enough to hold a person. The tank was empty now. Its door hung open, dented outward from the inside. On the wall beside us was a plaque. Project Lazarus initiated, July 1943. Objective: controlled reanimation of neural tissue. Status: ongoing. Jesus Christ, I whispered. Margot was reading something on a desk below, a logbook someone had left open. Her face went white. Mr. Smith, you need to see this. I climbed down the stairs to the main floor. The logbook was dated, the most recent entry from yesterday morning. November 14th, 2023, 0237. Subject L847, Aaron Tate, showing unexpected neural recovery. Cognitive function restored to approximately 40% baseline. Subject demonstrated problem-solving capabilities during routine testing. Requested communication device. Request denied per protocol restrictions. 0315. Security breach. Subject L847, compromise containment using emergency release. 3 personnel injured during recapture attempt. Dr. Guidry initiated facility lockdown. National Guard notified. 420. Lockdown failed. Subject L847 escaped via maintenance access. 17 personnel potentially exposed during breach. Administrator Chen authorized Protocol Omega. God help us all. Protocol Omega. I flicked through earlier entries looking for that term. Found it 3 pages back. In the event of catastrophic containment failure, Protocol Omega authorizes the sacrifice of Belrose Township, population estimate 850, to prevent regional spread. Sector 9 personnel will shelter in place. National Guard will establish hard perimeter. Infected population will be contained until virus runs its course or military intervention authorized. I read it twice, 3 times. The words didn't change. They'd planned this. Planned to let an entire town die rather than risk the infection spreading. My grandfather, I said aloud, pieces falling into place. He worked security here in 1943. There was another outbreak. They contained it by... I couldn't finish the sentence. By letting people die, Margot said quietly. And then they covered it up. Built the lab to study what they'd found, make sure it never happened again. Except they didn't destroy it. They kept experimenting. A sound echoed through the facility, distant but distinct. A door opening somewhere above us. Then footsteps. Multiple sets, moving with purpose. Someone else is here, Isabella whispered. We ducked behind the containment equipment as the footsteps grew closer. 3 people entered the observation deck, 2 in military fatigues, 1 in the white lab coat. The scientist was a woman in her 60s, gray hair pulled back, moving with the careful steps of someone who'd been awake too long. Don't care what the general says, she was telling the soldiers. We can't destroy 80 years of research on his paranoia. The infection can be controlled. Subject L847 proved that. He maintained cognitive function for nearly 6 weeks before the degradation accelerated. One soldier, a woman with captain's bars, shook her head. Dr. Camo, with respect, your controlled subject just infected half the parish. The brass wants this place sanitized, complete sterilization. We have authorization to deploy thermobaric ordnance at 1800 hours. 6 o'clock. I checked my watch. That gave us 90 minutes. You'll kill everyone in the containment zone, Dr. Camo said. The survivors in the shelter beneath the courthouse, the families barricaded in their homes. We're already dead the moment L847 got loose. The captain's voice was flat. You know how fast this spreads. The only question now is whether we stop it at Belrose, or watch it reach Baton Rouge by Friday, New Orleans by Sunday, the entire Gulf Coast by Christmas. My mother's words, exactly. Dr. Camo slumped against the railing. 80 years. We were so close to understanding it, to weaponizing it properly. Do you know what this could do for combat medicine? For treating degenerative diseases? The applications are irrelevant, the captain cut in. He played God. This is the result. Now, if you'll excuse me, I need to confirm the strike coordinates. She left. The other soldier followed. Dr. Camo remained, staring down at the empty containment tank. We needed to move, but between us and the exit stood a woman who'd spent decades studying the thing that was currently hunting us. A woman who might have answers. I stood up. Dr. Camo. She spun, reaching for something in her belt. A pistol. It was trained on us before I could raise my hands. How did you get in here? She demanded. The church tunnel. We're not infected. We're just trying to survive. Her eyes flicked across my students, assessing. The gun didn't lower. You shouldn't have come here. This facility is scheduled for demolition in... She checked her watch. 87 minutes. We heard. Is there a way out? Several. All currently compromised by infected personnel. She finally lowered the pistol. The viral load in this building is catastrophic. The ventilation system has been spreading it for hours. Anyone not in a sealed environment is already exposed. My stomach dropped. We've been breathing the same air as you. Yes. She said it simply, like commenting on the weather. You have perhaps 90 minutes before symptoms manifest. Less if you have any open wounds or mucous membrane exposure. I looked at my students. Margot had a scrape on her arm from climbing down the fire escape. Beau's hands were cut from the branch he'd used against Octave. Sophia was crying, whether from fear or because she understood what Dr. Camo was saying. There's no cure, I said. Not a question. No. The infection rewrites neural architecture at the cellular level. By the time symptoms appear, the damage is permanent. Consciousness fragments first. You'll lose language, memory, abstract thought. Then motor control degrades. Finally, only base functions remain. Hunger, aggression, territorial behavior. She paused. Some subjects retain higher functions longer than others. Aaron Tate lasted 6 weeks. But he was an outlier. Most turn within hours. How long did you know? I asked. About the 1943 outbreak? I was brought on in 1979. By then, it was institutional knowledge. The original incident infected 47 people. The military burned 3 city blocks to contain it. Told the families it was a chemical fire from the war production facility. She gestured around us. They built this place on the ashes. Spent 80 years trying to harness what they found in that German lab. And we almost succeeded. Succeeded at what? Creating better killers? Creating controllable ones. Her voice held something almost like pride. Do you understand what this represents? A way to reanimate tissue without requiring traditional life support. Soldiers who don't need food, water, sleep. Who follow orders without question. Who can't feel fear, or pain, or hesitation. The military applications alone. "You're insane," Margot said. Dr. Camo smiled. It was a tired expression. Perhaps. But I'm also dying. I disconnected my respirator when the lockdown started. I've been exposed for 7 hours. I can already feel it. Thoughts starting to slip, words taking longer to form. In another hour, I won't be me anymore. She walked to a filing cabinet, pulled out a folder thick with papers. This is everything. Research notes, test results, genetic sequences. The complete history of Project Lazarus. Someone should know what we did here. What we became. She held it out to me. I didn't take it immediately. Why give this to us if we're infected too? Because you're young. Your immune systems are stronger. You might last longer than I will. Long enough to get this information outside the containment zone. To warn people about what's coming. She thrust the folder forward. Take it. I did. The folder was heavy. There's an emergency exit through the maintenance level. Dr. Camo continued. Follow this corridor to the end. Take the stairs down 2 flights. Turn left. The door opens onto the service road behind the facility. You'll still be inside the military perimeter, but at least you'll have a chance. What about you? I'm staying. When the bombs fall, this place needs to burn completely. I'll make sure it does. She checked her watch again. You have 83 minutes. I suggest you run. We ran. The maintenance level was a maze of pipes and service corridors. We followed Dr. Camo's directions, the Project Lazarus folder clutched against my chest. Behind us, somewhere in the facility, I could hear her voice over the intercom system. She was humming, an old hymn my grandmother used to sing at church. The sound followed us through the corridors, getting fainter as we descended. Bo stumbled on the stairs, caught himself on the railing. Sorry, my head feels weird. Like cotton. Mine too, Sophia admitted, since we left the observation deck. Early symptoms. Dr. Camo had warned us. Cognitive degradation starts first. Difficulty with coordination, memory lapses, language confusion. We had less time than 90 minutes. The emergency exit was where she'd promised, a heavy door marked with faded yellow paint. I pushed the release bar. It didn't budge, locked from the outside. Let me try, Margot said. She kicked it, threw her shoulder against it. The door didn't move. Through a narrow window, I could see the service road, empty except for abandoned vehicles. The military perimeter was visible in the distance. Armored trucks positioned across Highway 22, soldiers in full hazmat gear patrolling the checkpoint. We're trapped, Isabella said. Not panicking, just stating fact. Bo sat down against the wall. His hands were shaking. Mr. Smith? I don't feel right. Something's wrong with my thoughts. I keep forgetting why we're here. I knelt beside him. His pupils were dilated, unfocused. A thin line of drool escaped his mouth before he wiped it away. Stay with me, I told him. What's your full name? Bo Haybear. No, wait. That's not. I live on Magnolia Street. My dad sells insurance. Or is that someone else's dad? His voice cracked. Mr. Smith. I can't remember. Margot grabbed my arm. How long before we're like the others? Before we start attacking people? I don't know. I checked my watch. 61 minutes until the bombing. But would we last that long? Sophia was crying again, speaking rapid Spanish to her sister. Isabella held her, whispering responses I couldn't understand. The Garcia twins had always been inseparable. Now they'd die together too. I opened the Project Lazarus folder. Maybe there was something in here. Some mention of a cure, a treatment, anything. The first document was a timeline. July 1943. German research facility captured in Poland. BW7 viral strain recovered from sealed chamber. Preliminary tests indicate post-mortem reanimation capabilities. August 1943. Transport to Louisiana research site. Initial containment established. September 1943. Accidental exposure. Dr. Heinrich Vogel, lead researcher. Subject maintained cognitive function for 12 days before degradation. Authorized first controlled study. October 1943. Containment failure. 47 casualties. Military intervention authorized. Cover story implemented. I flipped ahead, looking for anything recent. Found a section marked Neurological Analysis. The technical language was dense, but the conclusion was clear. The virus didn't just kill. It rewrote neural pathways, essentially creating a new consciousness built on primitive drives. The original person was still there, somewhere, trapped inside a body they no longer controlled. That was worse than death. A sound from the corridor made us all freeze. Footsteps. Slow, deliberate. That clicking noise we'd learned to fear. The ventilation shafts, Margot whispered, pointing up. We could climb through. Bypass the locked door. The vent cover was 8 feet up, held by 4 screws. Bo tried to stand, couldn't manage it. His legs weren't working right anymore. I'll get it, I said, dragging over a maintenance ladder. The footsteps were closer now, multiple sets. I climbed up, unscrewed the vent cover. The shaft beyond was narrow but passable. Margot first, then the twins. Hurry. Margot scrambled up the ladder and into the vent. Sophia followed. Isabella hesitated, looking at her sister disappearing into the shaft, then at Bo slumped against the wall. We can't leave him, she said. We have to. The words tasted like poison. He can't climb. And if we stay... Bo looked up at me. For a moment his eyes cleared. Go. Get them out, I'll slow them down. Bo. Mr. Smith. He smiled. It wasn't quite right. His mouth moved wrong, lips pulling back too far. But the intention was there. I'm already gone. I can feel it. Thoughts they're like smoke now. Can't hold them. The footsteps were 20 yards away. A shape appeared at the corridor's end, then another. Isabella climbed into the vent. I was about to follow when Bo grabbed my ankle. Tell my parents I wasn't scared, he said. The words came out thick, slurred. Tell them I don't... What was I saying? I pulled free, climbed into the shaft, replaced the vent cover. Through the grating, I watched Bo try to stand. He managed it, barely, using the wall for support. The infected reached him. 4 of them, former lad personnel by their clothing. They surrounded him, clicking in that chorus we'd heard all day. Bo laughed. A wet, broken sound. Then he attacked them. It wasn't coordinated, wasn't skilled. He just threw himself forward with everything he had left, bought us maybe 30 seconds before they tore him apart. We crawled through the ventilation system, following dim emergency lighting. My watch showed 53 minutes. Behind us, I could hear sounds I tried not to identify. The shaft branched. Margot went left, toward what she hoped was an exterior vent. The twins followed. I came last, the folder wedged awkwardly under my arm. "Stop," Sophia said ahead of me. "Dead end. We have to go back." "No time," Margaret replied. "There's light. I can see outside." She was right. A vent cover at the shaft's end showed gray sky beyond. Margot kicked it. Once. Twice. The cover came loose, tumbling 30 feet to the ground below. We were 3 stories up. "There's a drain pipe," Margot said, already climbing through. "We can make it." She went first, made it look easy. Sophia followed, more careful. Isabella started after her sister. That's when the shaft beneath us groaned. Metal fatigue, or maybe the building's structural integrity failing. Either way, the result was the same. The shaft section Isabella was in collapsed, dropping straight down. She didn't even scream, just vanished into the darkness, the sound of her impact echoing up from below. Sophia was screaming for her, trying to climb back up the drain pipe. "Sophia, you can't," Margaret started. "That's my sister." Sophia's voice was raw. "I'm not leaving her." I looked down through the vent opening. The shaft had fallen into what looked like a basement level. I couldn't see Isabella, but I could hear her. A wet, clicking sound. She turned fast, faster than Beau. Maybe the fall had caused injuries that accelerated the infection. "Sophia," I said carefully, "your sister is gone." "You don't know that." "Listen to her. Listen to what she sounds like now." The clicking continued, joined by others from deeper in the building. Sophia went quiet, tears streaming down her face, but she climbed down the rest of the pipe. The 3 of us stood at the base of the building, 47 minutes until demolition. The military perimeter was a quarter-mile away through open ground, and we just lost 2 more students to the infection that was eating through my thoughts like acid. I could feel it now, words taking longer to form, memories blurring at the edges. We were out of time. We ran toward the perimeter in a straight line. Stupid tactically, but my thoughts weren't connecting properly anymore. The folder was still in my hands, though I kept forgetting why it mattered. Something about documents, something important. Margot was ahead of me, moving fast. Sophia lagged behind, looking back toward the building where her sister had fallen. Every few steps she'd stop, turn like she was considering going back. "Keep moving," I managed to say. The words felt foreign in my mouth. The checkpoint was visible now. Soldiers behind concrete barriers, rifles trained on the empty highway. A speaker system crackled to life as we approached. "Halt! Do not come closer. This area is under quarantine. Anyone attempting to breach the perimeter will be stopped with lethal force." "We need help!" Margot screamed. "We're not infected." "All individuals within the containment zone are considered compromised. You will not be permitted to exit." I raised the folder over my head. "We have information." About Project Lazarus, about what they were doing in there. A pause, then a different voice, older, carrying authority. "Approach slowly. Keep your hands visible. Any sudden movements will result in immediate engagement." We walked forward. My legs felt wrong, knees bending at angles that didn't match my intentions. I stumbled, caught myself, kept moving. 50 yards from the checkpoint, a soldier in hazmat gear emerged from behind the barriers. Captain's bars on her helmet. The same woman from the facility. "Stop there," she ordered, to someone behind her. "Get the CO. Tell him we have civilians claiming to carry classified material." "It's all here," I said, holding up the folder. My words were slurring. Everything about the virus. The 1943 outbreak. The experiments. You need to. Sir, are you injured? No. Maybe. I don't. What was I saying? We were exposed. In the facility. But we got out. We can still. How long since exposure? Margot answered when I couldn't. About 90 minutes, maybe longer. We don't know exactly when the ventilation system was compromised. The captain took 2 steps back. Her hand moved to her sidearm. You're already infected, she said, not a question. We haven't turned, Margot insisted. We're still us. We can think, talk. We're not like the others. Yet. You're not like the others yet. The captain's voice was flat. Dr. Comeau confirmed the airborne variant. Anyone in that facility breathe it in. You have maybe an hour before cognitive function breaks down completely. Maybe less. Then let us through. Sophia's voice cracked. We'll go somewhere isolated. Somewhere we can't hurt anyone. Just don't leave us here when the bombs fall. I can't do that. If you breach this perimeter, if you make it to another population center before you turn. The captain shook her head. I'm sorry. I truly am. But you're already dead. All I can do is make sure you don't take anyone else with you. I looked down at the folder in my hands, the Project Lazarus documentation, 80 years of research, proof of what happened here. Take this at least, I said, stepping forward. Someone needs to know. Don't move. 3 rifles snapped toward me. Red laser dots painted my chest. I froze. The folders slipped from my fingers, papers scattering across the asphalt. We're still people, Margot said quietly. We're still here. For now, the captain replied. She glanced at her watch. You have 38 minutes. I suggest you find shelter. The blast radius is approximately... She stopped, her eyes fixed on something behind us. I turned. Difficult to make my neck work right. Took several seconds to complete the movement. The infected were coming. Not just a few. Dozens. Maybe hundreds. Pouring out of buildings. Emerging from side streets. Drawn by our voices or scent or some instinct we couldn't understand. They moved faster than they had this morning. More coordinated. Learning. And I could feel something stirring in my own head. A response to their presence. Recognition. Like they were calling, and part of me wanted to answer. Fall back to secondary positions, the captain ordered. The soldiers retreated behind the barriers, heavy weapons being brought up. Wait, Sophia screamed. Don't leave us out here. But they were already sealing the checkpoint, reinforced gates sliding into place. We were on the wrong side. The infected noticed us. Of course they did. We were prey, still human enough to trigger their hunting response. Run, Margot said. We ran. Not toward the checkpoint anymore, that was sealed. Not back toward Chimera Labs, that would be ground zero when the bombs fell. We ran east, toward the woods along Bayou Road, hoping to find cover before the horde reached us. My thoughts were fragmenting. I kept losing seconds. Would realize I'd moved 20 feet without remembering the steps between. Sophia was next to me, then she wasn't. Had she fallen? Had I left her behind? Margot grabbed my arm. This way. A storage building. Cinder block construction, metal roof. The door was open. We stumbled inside. I tried to close it, but my fingers wouldn't grip properly. Margot did it instead, throwing a deadbolt. The infected hit the door seconds later. The metal buckled but held. We backed away. The building's interior was dark, filled with equipment I couldn't identify anymore. My vision was narrowing. color draining from the world. Caleb. Margot was in front of me. When had she started using my first name? Caleb, can you hear me? I could, but answering took enormous effort. Yes. How much time? I looked at my watch. The numbers swam. 26 minutes. Until the bombs. Yes. She sat down, back against the wall, crying now. This isn't how I thought I'd die. I had college applications. Northwestern was my first choice. I was going to study journalism. My mom always said I asked too many questions. I sat beside her. Your dad. Did he make it out? I don't know. He stopped answering his phone 6 hours ago. She wept her face. I hope so. But probably not. The clicking sounds outside grew louder. The infected were gathering, testing the walls, finding weak points. Mr. Smith. Caleb? Her voice was small. Are we going to turn to those things before the bombs? I wanted to lie, wanted to offer comfort, but the truth was clawing its way out of my throat. Yes. What we know? When it happens? Dr. Camo said consciousness fragments. You'll lose pieces. Language first, then memory, then everything that makes you, you. I'm scared. Me too. She leaned against me. I put my arm around her shoulders. Just a teacher and his student, waiting for the end. Through gaps in the walls, I could see the sun setting. Beautiful. Strange how you notice beauty at the end. My grandfather had told me once, some doors shouldn't be opened, some things you can't put back. He'd been right. And now we'd all pay for it. The last thing I remember clearly is Margot's hand in mine. She was saying something, words I couldn't understand anymore. Language had dissolved, leaving only sounds, rhythms. The clicking from outside had started to make sense in ways that terrified the shrinking part of me that was still Caleb Smith. My watch read 1800. I felt the bombs before I heard them. A pressure wave that rippled through the air, through my chest, through what remained of my thoughts. The building shook. Dust fell from the ceiling. Then the sound arrived. A roar that wasn't quite thunder, wasn't quite anything natural. The world turned white. Classified military report. Operation Clean Slate. Date: November 15th, 2023. Location: Belrose, Louisiana. Former. Objective: status: complete. Ordnance deployed. 4 times GBU 43/B Moab. 12 times thermobaric secondary charges. Estimated casualties: 847. Total population: infected neutralized, 100%. Facility destruction: confirmed. Contamination radius: sterilized. Witnesses: 0. Cover story implementation: chemical plant explosion, federal investigation ongoing, area declared environmental hazard zone, no entry order enforced indefinitely. Recovered materials: partial documentation scattered at checkpoint perimeter, collected and classified under Project Lazarus protocols. Civilian Caleb Smith identified as attempted courier. All materials resecured. Survivor accounts: none. Recommendation: incident to be archived alongside 1943 event. Public awareness remains at 0. Chimera Labs research to be relocated to undisclosed facility. Project Lazarus continues under revised safety protocols. Addendum: 3 soldiers reported exposure during checkpoint breach, currently in quarantine. Symptoms manifesting within expected time frame. Authorization requested for Protocol Omega contingency measures. Signed, General Marcus Webb, USAMRIIB. The Baton Rouge News ran the story for 3 days. Chemical explosion, tragic accident, environmental contamination, the usual corporate negligence angle. A few activist groups tried to organize protests, demand transparency. They lost interest when other stories took precedence. A celebrity divorce, a political scandal. The news cycle moved on. My mother saw the reports. She was interviewed by federal agents who asked very specific questions about what I might have told her, what I might have known. She answered carefully, the way she'd been trained during her 31 years at Chimera Labs. They let her go after 6 hours. She lives in a small apartment now. Doesn't leave much, keeps the windows covered. Sometimes, late at night, she smells citrus and pine, a phantom scent that makes her cry. She knows I'm dead. The agents confirmed it without explicitly saying so. Your son was in the containment zone. There were no survivors. What they didn't tell her was what the cleanup crews found. In a storage building on the eastern edge of town, they discovered 2 bodies, a man and a teenage girl, partially buried under rubble. The thermal blast had reached them in the final seconds, turned them to ash before the transformation completed. Medical examination revealed elevated viral loads, neural degradation consistent with early-stage infection. Another 30 minutes, and they would have been completely turned. The report called to them mercy. The bodies were incinerated along with the rest of Belrose. No graves, no markers, no acknowledgement that we existed. The Project Lazarus research continues somewhere. Different facility, different scientists, same mistakes. They'll refine the protocols, improve the containment measures, convince themselves they can control it this time. And when it breaks loose again, and it will, they'll have another town ready to sacrifice, another cover story prepared. Another group of people will die wondering why their government chose to murder them rather than risk the truth getting out. My grandfather tried to warn me. Some doors shouldn't be opened. Some things you can't put back once they're loose. I just wish I'd understood before I became another secret buried under Louisiana soil. Before I became part of the lie. Emergency alert, November 14th, 2023. Zombie alert. Biological hazard. Seek shelter. The recording played on a loop until the bombs fell. Then it stopped. By morning, the emergency broadcast system had returned to its normal programming. Weather updates, traffic reports, the mundane rhythm of life continuing as if nothing had happened. As if 847 people hadn't been erased from existence. As if their sacrifice had meant something. It hadn't. 6 months later, there would be another incident. Different town, different state, same virus. And the cycle would begin again.